Hello everybody and welcome back to the National Series. Here we are in episode 6. We're looking over our pitching staff as I've made some moves I talked about doing at the end of the last video. Sean Hill is the notable one. I've brought him up from New Orleans, AAA New Orleans. He is going to be in our rotation here as we needed some help. We had some guys that really just weren't really doing all that well. I only made a couple moves, even though there's probably 3 or 4 that we could move. He's 24 here, hasn't had a ton of experience at the majors, so this is going to be another stint for him. And then also Rocky Biddle is someone I called up to put in our pen. He is 29 years old, and I think this call-up is really just kind of like, dude, you have to kind of get it together, you know? Like, kind of, like, figure it out now or else there's not many options for you. So the people we sent down here we were going to look at, of course, John Patterson, who, if you remember, had an ERA over 7 in a rotation, which is just not something we can really handle right now. So, I mean, any team can really handle. So we're going to give him some time back in New Orleans, see if he can kind of get his stuff together here. And then the next player that we sent down is Joe Horgan, which I already let the CPU kind of auto set the lineups here for the minors. And I was looking here in AAA, but it looks like the CPU has moved him down to AA, to Harrisburg. So that's where Joe Horgan is going to sit. He had an ERA that just kept ballooning here. He was really good in the first month or so of this season, and then things just kind of fell apart for him, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's kind of how things have looked. So now we're going to get into this game here in July against the Phillies here. I think it's our 3rd series of the month. So we started things off with the Cubs and then got into a series with the Mets. So this is our 3rd series now on the road here in Philly before the All-Star break. And so John Lieber is going to go up against us. And this one's going to be a much shorter game than the Marlins game was. That game was an absolute shootout back and forth. This game, not so much. So we're going to start things off with Placido Polanco here in the bottom of the 4th with bases loaded. It's another Tomohoko start, by the way. And he nearly leaves the yard here, just barely missed the pole. But man, that would have been just absolutely brutal for Tomohoko here. So with an 0-1 count here, just 1 out. He still makes good contact here and floats this one out to center field, and that was going to be caught safely by Andy Chavez, but the Phillies are going to send their lead runners, and they're going to get the man home to take a lead in this game. So we're moving ahead now to David Bell, the 3rd baseman for the Phillies, now with runners in the corners in the bottom of the 4th, and he makes, again, some weak contact here, pops up here to shallow center field, but Chavez can't get to the ball, so that's going to score another run, and then the lead runner overruns the bag, and that was going to count for an out. I thought you could legally overrun third base. Maybe that's a newer rule, I don't know, but Castilla makes the tag, and that's going to end the inning for the Phillies, but they do get another run home. So we're going to move ahead now to the bottom of the 5th here. The Phillies with a 2-0 lead, and Bobby Abreu absolutely crushes this ball deep to left center field, and that one is gone. 409 feet, just barely clears the wall here, and that's a far wall, and that's going to be a home run for the Phillies, and they're going to take a 3-0 lead over your Nationals here early on in this ball game. Just boom, just a heck of a hit, man. Absolutely crushed. And remember in our last video facing the Marlins, Tomohoko gave up a ton of hard hit contact, man, just a ton of contact. So it's a par for the course for him. So John Lieber now the pitcher. I even said in the last video, if you're giving up hits to the pitcher, man, I don't know what you're doing. But Lieber gets on base. It is a well-hit ball up the middle here towards the right side, and that one gets through into the outfield for a base hit for John Lieber. So Placido Polanco now is going to step up to bat, and he's going to crack this one up the middle here on a line, just ropes it up the middle, and that's going to bring 2 aboard for the Phillies as this tough inning does not end yet. They're going to have to get out of it somehow. So David Bell now stepping up to bat. He's already having a great game today for the Phillies, and he's going to crack this one. It looks like he was late on the swing, but just cracks it to the opposite side here, deep out to right field. That one's going to hit the wall, and a runner's going to come home. I think that was John Lieber who was able to get home, just absolutely just kind of trudging as slow as he can to get across the plate here. But now the lead is 4-0, and it's another hit for the Phillies. That one barely gets down. I thought that one was caught, but it wasn't. So that's going to bring home Polanco, and it's another run scored for the Phillies. So the Phillies offense is just rolling so far in this game here. They've kind of been generating some offense here throughout the game outside of that Abreu home run. They've really generated everything else, and it is another base hit up the middle. So We are late in this game, and our bullpen is really not helping us. I think it's Seth Grisinger who is in for us now. He relieved Tomaoka, I think, in like the 6th or 7th inning. So this is his damage here really at work as that sinker kind of kisses the corner. That was a good pitch. With 2 outs here, we just need to get out of the inning as things have kind of gotten out of hand in this ball game. It's tough for us. Our offense really has not been around much at all in this game, unfortunately, but there's still an opportunity here as that sinker swung and miss on. We like to see the swing and miss stuff. That's what I like to see here. And it's another pitch that is popped out to right field down the line, and that one is going to be good, maybe for extra bases, and they're going to try for extra bases, and they're going to get it. So now they have 2 runners in scoring position. So this inning, again, just continues to unravel for the Nationals pitching staff here, and I'm surprised that we haven't really gone to the pen for anyone else here, as this 8th inning has just been kind of disastrous for us, with the Phillies offense really just kind of hammering however they want to. So Mike Maselli, who, again, judging by the picture, might be a prospect that the Phillies are trying out here, as that sinker misses inside for ball 1. So Griesinger's got to try and get out of this inning as best as he can, as Maselli swings at this fastball down in the zone, or not outside of the zone. He swings at it, but he makes good contact off of this one, but pops it out to right field, and that one is going to end the inning, fortunately, for the Nationals, man. So we're going to move now into the top of the 9th here. Vinny Castilla is up to bat for us here, and it is an 0-1 count here. We need some kind of offense, even though the end of the inning is staring us in the face, and Castilla rockets one to left field. Absolute towering shot, and that was going to leave the yard and hit the concourse 402 feet to left field. Castilla gets us on the board late in this ball game. It's basically over, but I mean, hey, man, I'll show you guys some amazing power like that as Castilla absolutely rockets that one, man. Just a towering moonshot. Oh, man, you love to see it. Just huge, man. And there's Lieber, just, kind of celebrating here that we finally did something, I guess, against him. But the game is over. The Phillies do manage to win it here, as we wouldn't do anything else in the inning, and that is going to do things for us here in Philadelphia. So coming back to the lab here, we have a trade to look over, and it is a prospect swap with the Marlins. The Marlins like this 19-year-old infielder that we have and want to give us a left fielder that they have. I think they're both at single A, actually. But here's the look over their stats here. I like this prospect from the Marlins, but I don't know if I just necessarily need to part ways. But we would make the trade here because I just like that prospect. And then the Dodgers are going to come in here and try to offer us a reliever for Vinny Castilla. I initially, now that I'm thinking this over, I do like the trade. Initially, I didn't, because I think Castilla offensively gives the major league team just way too much production to just kind of part ways with a reliever, but we need pitching help desperately, and I think the Dodgers realize that, and I think this is a trade that kind of helps both sides, but I didn't see us potentially holding on to this reliever long term, so I was kind of like hesitant to take him in. His stuff isn't really anything that we don't already have, so, you know what I mean, just a good fastball and bad secondary stuff, so he wasn't a guy that I thought we really needed, and Castilla's been one of our best offensive hitters just all season, but for the money that he's owed, he's definitely not going to stick around for a while here. I don't want to keep a 2-year-old Vinny Castilla to his 40th season, age 40 season, so he's a guy that we need to move here. Here's the prospect package I tried to add on to see if we can make it work here, but the Dodgers were not into it, so we might revisit this trade a little bit later here, but we're going to get into the rest of the month here now in just a second, so we're going to cut into that. All right, moving right along now, we're at the end of July. We've gone over the entire month here, and it was our best month so far at the helm. We finally have a winning record at the end of a month. Our overall record is still very bad, but we at least finished a month on the positive end. And maybe if we could continue that production, we could get closer to maybe 10 games under 500 instead of 20. But 70 is still kind of my mark. I'd like to win 70 games, and we're still in a pretty good pace to do that. But we have to pretty much play around 500 ball, or maybe a little bit better if we are going to do that. So looking over the month here, the big thing, as we talked earlier, our first sweep of the season, I think it's our first sweep, we swept the Cubs. Or I guess I can double check if we have swept anyone. We took 3 of 4 from the Brewers, but that's definitely not a sweep. I think right here, maybe, yeah, the Diamondbacks series. I think it's our second sweep of the year. We swept the Diamondbacks back in May, so it's our second sweep of the year over the Cubs, and then we also split a 4-game set with the Mets before getting swept by the Phillies, and then taking another series over the Brewers, and then taking another series over the Rockies, and then continuing that production against the Astros as well. Or I think we lose the series against the Astros. It's kind of hard to tell once they gray out the screen. But yeah, this is a 4-game set against the Astros, and we split the series. Similar scores as well. And then we took the series at the end of the month against the Braves, now with an opportunity to win the series here at the end of July, which is the 31st up here. And I think the deadline is also this day, so I'm not going to send that last game here. I'm just going to treat it like it's a part of August, and then we will cover the deadline in the next video. But that's how the month goes over. Now, of course, we're going to look at the roster. Okay, see, today is the trade deadline, so there we go. So that is something we're going to look over in the next episode of the series. But I'm going to look over the team right now as it stands. There's our rankings on the side still, so we still have the worst pitching staff in baseball. Defense is still pretty horrendous as well, and the offense remains top 10 in the league. So that just seems to be what the team is bottomed out to. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So Andy Chavez's average has dipped below 300. He's still slugging the ball pretty well, but yeah, I'd like to see him get back over 300. Jose Guillen is still hitting over 300, just barely, with 17 home runs is nice. It's cool. He might need to move back in a better spot here. Maybe if we can get rid of Vinny Castillo, if we trade him, he might be the new cleanup guy. We might move him a couple spots down with the power that he's showing off this year. Jose Vidro is also having an amazing year, man. This is freaking incredible for a guy like Jose Vidro. You know, he's kind of a guy I guess you want long term on a competitive team, but we're not a competitive team, so I don't know if a 357 season with 21 home runs and a 589 slugging from Jose Vidro is something that we desperately need. I mean, obviously we do need it, you get what I'm saying, but you know, if the rest of the team isn't even in the same ballpark, pun intended, then I don't know how much use we have for someone like Jose Vidro. Financially, I mean, you know, obviously talent-wise we need him, but financially I don't know if there's much of a need for that. Vinny Castillo, I think his average is dipping a little bit too, but he's still hitting for good power, still slugging the ball decently, so at 38 I can't be too upset. Tremel Sledge is also consistently hitting the ball. His slugging is pretty high here. It looks like he's getting a ton of extra base hits because he's not really leaving the park that much. Only 3 home runs so far this year, but still hitting the ball very well, getting on base at a great clip here, so that is good to see from Tremel Sledge. Nick Johnson, since returning from injuries, not really lighting the world up, but we weren't getting the best production from first base in the first place. I think in the end of the last video, he had only played a couple games maybe since coming back from injury. He came back at the end of June, so this is the first like real month under his belt where he's playing consistently almost every day. And I mean, yeah, it's decently well. The OPS is well over 700, so can't be too upset about that. Brad Wilkerson is also still hitting the ball incredibly well. Maybe he needs to be a little bit higher with the power that he's hitting for, but I like kind of spacing it throughout the lineup. I don't want to put all those guys at the same place because, you know, we don't have a problem scoring runs, so which is funny to say after that Phillies game, but that was an outlier. Look at the rest of the month. It was an outlier. Christian Guzman is kind of cooled out as well, but he's still hitting around 300. Slugging is pretty good too. Hitting for a lot more power than I thought he would. I didn't think Christian Guzman was going to be a big power guy. I mean, you know, at shortstop at least. You know, I didn't think that was going to be one of his stronger suits for us. But you know, he's holding his weight. I can say that. And Brian Schneider here, or Brad Schneider? Brian Schneider. I was right the first time. I almost have them all memorized. Just bear with me here. The average is sitting around 300. He's really heating up here. I love the slugging percentage, man. He is doing great. He's, for a catcher, man, that is just freaking great. And then looking at the bench here, Gary Bennett, our backup catcher, not as great, considerably worse than Schneider now. They've at least separated themselves. Their numbers were about the same for most of the year, but it's fine. This is still good numbers from a catcher offensively, so I'm okay with it. Will Cordero has also cooled off a little bit here. Still pretty decent numbers. I don't think we have him in any lineups, do we? I think we do. Yeah, Will Cordero. Yeah, he's DHing for us. But you know, of course, we don't play with a DH all the time. So yeah, Nick Johnson's in both lineups. So maybe Will Cordero was someone who should be getting a longer look. Maybe someone we should be trying to move. He can play in the outfield, so maybe that's something creative that we could do. Just a good bench piece, I guess, to have. So maybe that's his role for us, just being that good bench piece for us in case we need it. Jamie Carroll's numbers are not great really at all. He's been pretty bad for us this year. And then, of course, Jeffrey Hammonds. I don't even think he's barely getting on the field, but he has been awful, so I'm not really worried about him. I'm trying to keep him out as much as possible. He's one of the worst players on our offense. On our offense, it's actually been really good this year. So looking at the rotation, Livian Hernandez's numbers are still just about the same. The ERA hasn't really budged. I think north or getting in the mid-sixes is probably about where it's going to sit for the rest of the year, which is just horrendous, just awful. I'm glad he's on a one-year deal because he needs to get out of here. We need him gone. If I had a solid replacement for him, I'd probably just cut him loose and just eat the money, but I don't know how that really works in this game. If it's just going to go against our bank here and doesn't just go straight to the owner, he's got to deal about it. But yeah, I mean, he needs to get out of here. We need him gone. Tony Armas Jr. got kind of hit around in the month of July. That ERA is now over 4, which isn't good. He's one of our best starters this year. He's been really consistent, and so if he starts to slip, then that's really a bad look for us. Sean Hill, since getting the call, has been horrendous in maybe about 2 or 3, maybe 4 starts. That ERA is over 8, so not a great call, I guess. He might be getting sent right back down to New Orleans because, yeah, I can't be having that. I need something a little bit better from that. Tomo Oka has gotten the ERA down to 5, so he's shaved off, I think, about a run from where he was at the beginning of the month. In that Phillies series, he still had an ERA over 6, so he had a pretty good second half of July. So still not a great number, but I mean the strikeout numbers are going up, so the ERA is going down, so that's good. And then Sungwoo Kim has been good also for us. I think his numbers were about around this when he was at the beginning of the month when I started recording. So he's still been pretty decent. So funny how Sungwoo Kim is now our best starter, I guess, as all optics kind of point to here, as Tony Armas Jr. has kind of fallen off a little bit. In the bullpen, Dan Smith is still struggling. Go figure. TJ Tucker's having a pretty solid season still in his role. Luis Ayala has also been really solid in this month. Joey Eiskin still kind of struggling. The ERA is over 5. Seth Griesinger is really heating up. He had in that game, that Phillies game, I think he gave up a few runs, but still kind of kept the ERA around where it was. It's come down a little bit, just only a little bit. And then Rocky Biddle, the 2 pitchers that we called up have done absolutely horrible. For Sean Hill, I guess I'm not super surprised, but for Rocky Biddle, man, he's 29 years old, so if this is what he's going to do at the Major League level at 29 years old, there's really not much room for you left. You're a guy I can absolutely part ways with. It makes me kind of think about that Vinny Castilla trade, because that's probably a guy that we could immediately plug in, that reliever that LA was trying to give us, but I just wasn't trying to get a guy like that, because we haven't really done well with pitching, developing pitching anyway so far this year. I was afraid of just basically giving away one of our best hitters for a reliever that could probably not even finish the season or be on the team next year. But obviously there's a space for him. There's a need for him. So maybe it's something we have to revisit on the deadline in our next episode. And then Chad Cordero is also having a pretty decent year, only 31 innings here, but the ERA is under 3, so for a closer, those are decent numbers here. He's still walking a lot, but that's a problem that we've had across the rotation. So in the next episode, I guess we'll probably have another filler episode before we get into August, because yeah, it looks like there's a lot that needs to be done as far as trading goes, and then see if I can still try and fix pitching, man. Maybe the answer is just to do as little as possible. I don't know, just let the CPU auto-fix the pitching staff, because I really just don't know, what more I can do. We really don't have the prospects to fix anything, so I don't know. Looking at August, though, here is a look at August. We could probably do this in the next episode, but I'll just give you guys... we will do that, but I do want to show the standings. That's what we do. That's what we do at the end of these. So we will show the standings here. The Phillies are far and away leading the NL East here. They have a commanding lead here, or not really commanding. I guess they're only a handful of games ahead of the Marlins, but that is a good lead to have at this month of the season here in the dog days of summer. The Braves here are on a skid, a 4-game skid. They're kind of dropping out the race here and getting closer to us. So if we could get out of 5th place, man, that'd be crazy. Could you believe that? If we got out of 5th place after losing 10 games in April, that's amazing. In the AL West here, the Athletics, I mean, still, there really isn't a definitive good team in the AL West. It's just an absolute mess. That'd be a fun rebuild, I guess, to do in this kind of game if the entire AL West is this bad. It'd be pretty easy to maybe steal a playoff spot in your first year with a losing record. But the Athletics and Angels are kind of just going back and forth, and the Mariners and Rangers are kind of falling off. In the AL Central, the Tigers are taking, or they have taken a commanding lead of the AL Central. As a Tigers fan, that makes me happy. But in the year where the All-Star game is in Detroit, they are kind of taking control of things here as the Indians have fallen almost 10 games out of the division lead, and everyone else has just completely fallen apart and imploded. The Tigers have really taken a big stride here in the summer. In the AL East here, the Red Sox are kind of doing the same here. They're padding a little bit of a gap here between them and the Yankees, but the Yankees are still kind of close by. I think they were, like a half game apart in the last video, maybe? Maybe a game and a half? I don't know, but the gap is widening here. But the Blue Jays aren't super far from the Yankees, so maybe if one of these teams can catch fire, they might catch up to the Red Sox, who knows. But the Orioles and Rays are very much out of it. And thanks to the Devil Rays, I don't think we are the worst team in baseball anymore. I think the Devil Rays officially have the worst record in the majors, I believe. We've at least cracked the 40 mark. The Devil Rays have not. So in the NL West here, the Padres are standing on top of the NL West, which is interesting, with a 4-game pad over the Dodgers, with the Giants not super far behind, but 7.5 is a long way from the top spot. You can see them down in the wild card race, that they are still kind of in it, but yeah, that's about that. And then the Rockies and the Diamondbacks are, of course, out of it as well. Not super out of it, but for the division, for sure they are. And then the loaded NL Central here, the Cardinals are still holding on to that top spot, but the Reds are sitting right outside here, just a game and a half away here. The Pirates aren't super far behind, but it's going to be tough for them. Same for the Astros, with the Brewers and Cubs being kind of considerably lower as well. And we're pretty close to the Cubs here. We actually have the same record as the Cubs, so we have the same record as probably the 28th worst team, and then, of course, the Devil Rays are the worst team. And then the Royals are also right there, too. We have a better record than the Royals. So there's a couple teams now. So thanks to July, a good July has gotten us out of the 30 spot, maybe put us in like the 27th spot in the league, at least in terms of record. I mean, we might still be the worst team. We definitely have the worst rotation, but either way, that's a little bit better. I will take that. So in the next video, we're going to cover the trade deadline. Of course, more call-ups and send-downs on the pitching side of things. Maybe some prospects are ready to move. Maybe they're not here. Yeah, I'll look into the inbox as well. Maybe there's some news in there about prospects. I saw off screen that they were telling me, like, hey, maybe this guy needs to get called up or sent down. I don't know. So maybe I'm stunting development on the farm. Yeah, in the next episode, we will cover that. And then after that, we will get into August as we kind of wind down the first year. We only have 2 more months to cover here. Hopefully, we can get that all in 3 episodes after the trade deadline, the month of August, and the month of September. So, yeah. So hopefully I see you guys in the next episode here when we cover the deadline.